So welcome to the Frequency of Overflow. We're going to begin with a grounding practice. So I'll invite you to find a place where your spine is long but not rigid, where you can sit or even lie down comfortably, or you can close your eyes. And with these first few deep breaths, really bring your focus from the external inwards into your body, into literally sensing and feeling your sitting bones touching your seat. Draw the energy that may have been dissipated throughout your day so far, has leaked out perhaps through the mind, the emotional body, the physical body, and just imagine that you're literally drawing your energy from outside of you back into your body. You can place it in your heart, you can place it in your belly, wherever you'd like to bring your energy back into yourself to literally feel the body, the sensations. Notice the space. And then allow yourself to be breathed, slow, calm, steady breaths in and out. With every exhalation, allow your face to soften and relax. And simply notice if there's any place in your body that you're holding or resisting or contracting that's not necessary. And simply bring your awareness into that space and soften. Invite more breath into that part or parts of the body. And as the breath slows down, as you attune this coherence of the heart to the body, to the breath, and as we begin here today, I give gratitude for this moment, for this breath, for this state of overflow that moves through us, as we open our hearts, as we open our crown chakra, as we open the channels to receive. May each and every one of us stay in heart-centered consciousness, that Christ consciousness, so that we can stay in the flow of divinity, in the inevitable being of presence, of the indivisible, of the infinite, of the eternal, of that still voice within. May we allow it to guide our hearts, to guide our actions, to guide our thoughts. May we be free. May we wake up and live in the truth of our being. So be it, and so it is. Then take a deep breath in. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So first of all, I'm curious, when you think of overflow, what comes to mind? You can type in the chat, overflow. What does that mean to you? What is the state of overflow? How does that show up in your life? How does that show up, or perhaps not show up? There's going to be areas of your life, right? Maybe right now you're feeling a great deal of overflow in certain areas and lack in others. And I wanted to come together today and invite you into a conversation around transformation on a frequency level, which is tied into transformation on an identity level. If you've ever worked with me, you'll know that a lot of the work that I do is connected to identity. I'm not talking about superficial, like what is your name? What is your title? That's actually the antithesis of what I speak about in identity work. The identity work is really dissolving and shedding everything that is non-self behavior, everything that is non-self ways of thinking or being, because ultimately we are here to actualize our greatest potential in this human form, meaning who you came here to be and everything that is already within you, lying dormant often, And it's lying dormant because we have layers of conditioning over top, layers of conditioning that don't allow us to access our wholeness until we literally wake up and go, oh, wait a second, that was there all along. That was there the whole time. I've always been able to access my wholeness. I've always been able to live in abundance. I've always been able to live in joy and freedom. And the only thing that separates from that is what we're literally thinking and believing. And that is what our identity is formed from. So yes, overflow, ease, grace, synchronicities happen. I love that. And I've had that experience too, in that overflow state where I'm not blocking life out, where I'm not pushing life out because of my own egoic ideas of not enoughness, of lack, of it's not possible, or how. That is the number one question the ego loves to ask is how. And that will also block us from listening to that inner impulse, that inner inspiration that will drive us forward. So when I track back really honestly through a lot of my life, I see and I feel like I can literally feel in my nervous system that there is an ancestral lineage, this thread that goes through everything of scarcity. Now, I'll invite you to look back through your ancestral lineage as well. Perhaps you have, like me, our family are immigrants, like many families in Canada or North America even. Immigrants that came and there was real scarcity, there was real lack, there was real poverty. So that gets passed down. And the interesting thing is we will carry these imprints until we become conscious and reclaim our wholeness and ultimately do the healing work for our lineage. It is said that, 7 generations back and 7 generations forward, that as we activate, even if you don't have kids, it doesn't matter. I don't have children, but I'm still doing the lineage work that is healing backwards through the line and also forwards and affecting all humans. And this is what is so fun and satisfying, really, when we wake up to who we are and live from that place of wholeness, opposed to shrinking in false humility or being scared of greater visibility or speaking up, speaking our truth. Maybe that's even just in the comfort of your own home, in your personal relationships, or even deeper in the personal relationship that you have with yourself. You're in a dialogue, a narrative of, when you look really closely, low self-worth, deep scarcity, maybe even self-hatred. And I know you're also a really positive person. I get it. We can feel like I'm positive. I live in gratitude, all of these things, which is wonderful. But I can guarantee if you're still telling yourself that you're a positive person, you haven't looked deep enough. You haven't really gotten into the underbelly of the shadow. And when we can see that the shadow isn't some scary thing and it's not even bad or wrong, it's important, it's part of the whole, then we can honor it and we can actually use it as a springboard. So when I look back, especially after I left university, because up until then I had been sort of financially contained through my family with less fear. And I remember in my last year of university, I actually started getting really bad digestive problems, which I'd never had before. And I see now that there's a deep stress of going, oh my God, I'm going to leave this institution that I've been in for 4 years. And then before that, public school, high school, all those years of containment where all I have to do is show up and be a good student. And I really was a really good student. I liked it. I enjoyed school. However, the fear of essentially being on my own in the big old world and how do I survive? These weren't conscious thoughts, but obviously my digestive system was giving me signals that there was a lot of anxiety building, a lot of fear of, how will I make money? How will I do this? I had studied contemporary dance and I wanted to move out into the world and be part of a dance company. My dream was to move to the UK and dance for a company there. And ultimately, in that final year of university, I had some crazy injuries, which literally left me in so much pain every day. But I kept push through, push through, push through, because that was part of the training. And then ultimately, right near the end of that program, I had a very strange growth that developed on my ankle, and I had to get that lanced off, and it was very traumatic, really, when I look back to it. And I ended up graduating from university on crutches because I couldn't walk. And that experience really took my life in a left-hand turn. Like things really shifted from where I thought I was going and what I thought I was going to be doing to something completely different. And I ended up traveling for like the next year or so and ended up doing lots of traveling. But over these years of travel, of trying to find my way in Vancouver, a very expensive city in the world, I really shrunk. I didn't believe in overflow. I was conditioned to believe in really hard work, and that hard work is what gets you rent, food on the table. And if you try hard enough, if you just keep going, 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 then that's what will maybe allow you to get ahead. But I was also in a career of a dance artist. Like we were programmed through school, through university, of that sort of starving artist mentality, which is crazy and so normalized, really. And then I ended up living in India in an ashram, and I had studied yoga. And when I came back from that trip, I began teaching yoga at a time when there was not a yoga studio on every corner. This was over 25 years ago. And it was great. It wasn't something I set out to do. I wasn't like, I'm going to be a yoga teacher. It was literally a skill that I had. I was good. I had taught dance and figure skating for years before. I'm a natural teacher in that way. So I started doing that. And I can tell you the wage of a yoga teacher, especially like 26 years ago, was minimal. And it's not like I was teaching yoga 8 hours a day. Maybe I would teach 2 yoga classes, but that would take up my whole day biking around. I didn't have a car. I didn't have finances to buy a car. I would bike maybe, 60 minutes across the city to go to this studio and get my $20 check. And then I would bike another 60 minutes across there and just like that. And then this was many years of this, like, gosh, it's a bit of a blur time now, but I would say a good 10 plus years of like running around and biking around, teaching sometimes 6 a.m. yoga classes that I'd have to get up in the pouring Vancouver November rain. And if you know November rain in Vancouver, it is cold, it is damp. And to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and bike across the city, I was devoted. And also, I didn't know there was any other way. And when I track back, I see that much of my life was related to finances, was skewed because of conditioning around the starving artist. Then, oh, and now I'm a yoga teacher, and now I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. Now I'm an energy healer. And God forbid I should want to get paid for those things. Like I should just give it all away. And I did a lot of the time. I gave it all away. And I also was leaking energy left, right, and center. I didn't know it at the time. On one of my journeys to India, I got very sick. Long story short, I had an autoimmune condition that lasted almost a decade. So when we talk about overflow, I was so far away from overflow in most areas. Yes, I had freedom to travel because I was choosing that on a very low budget. So I was staying in horrendous places sometimes in India, in Asia, places that you would probably have taken one look at and been like, oh my gosh, I can visually see this place that my partner at the time, he came to visit me on one of these trips to Asia. And when he arrived, our first night, I had been in the ashram for 6 months. We got to this city in Patna in the middle of the night off a train. It looked like a war zone. The city itself, we got off, we're like, oh my gosh. And it's a very rough place, a very, very impoverished city. We got to the room. There were no windows. There was like a little mesh vent, the very, very top where you could maybe get like this air, tiny little thread of air come in. There were cigarette butts in the sink. There was, when you turned the tap on, it was brown water that came out, and there were blood stains on the sheets. Like, you cannot make this up. So, and we were like, okay, like, I guess this is it. I mean, we were also, it was the middle of the night in India. We had walked down dark little streets to get to this place. There wasn't a lot of option. And in some ways, I'm really proud of my range and my resiliency. And there's light and shadow in all things, right? So, as much as I was adaptable, that's a really great strength. And it is also the shadow of adaptability is toleration. I have tolerated all sorts of fuckery, from staying in places that, exactly as I've just shared, to relationships where there has been emotional, psychological abuse. I've worked with spiritual teachers in the past who have abused me psychically, physically, emotionally. I have tolerated so much in the name of spirituality, in the name of self-realization, that when I look back now, it had nothing to do with that. It was just abuse. It was just people that were very out of integrity, completely out of integrity. So when we're operating from overflow, we're in a very different state. We have to be connected to our truth. We have to be connected to our true essence. We have to be connected to the God of our understanding. Otherwise, we're in complete ego mode. So my toleration, and I bless that younger version of myself. I'm not mad at her. I don't have shame about the things that I said yes to, when now I'm looking back and thinking, what really was I thinking? But I see that there's a process, and part of my process has been to learn and transmute the frequencies of martyrdom, of people pleasing, of, gosh, what else? Uh, Victimization, of feeling like literally that I'm being punished by God, the universe, the infinite, because of certain experiences that I've been through. My ego mind determined that, well, it's because I'm being punished. And what kind of thought process is there if one is being punished? Well, I've either done something wrong or I am wrong. So that's been a large part of my spiritual journey and awakening, and also that I walk my clients through. And my clients are phenomenal, successful people. It's not that people have to be like in rock bottom, and I've worked with a lot of people at rock bottom, but nowadays I'm really working with people who are very far along in their life and their spiritual path, but they're ready for that next level because they see, oh my goodness, the more aware I become, the more I see that it becomes more subtle, that it becomes more nuanced, our inner exploration. And I believe that's a requirement to become more subtle, to become more sensitive, if you will. I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm an empath, and light and shadow. Wonderful in my healing career, and very challenging at times in personal relationships, in dynamics. Going to a mall is a nightmare for me. I do not love it. And as I age or move along, I really don't love big crowds anymore. There's a lot of things that aren't my preference. Yes, I can still move into those spaces and I'm okay. I'm not going to uh, project my power onto them, but I don't prefer them. So I think back of all of these moments of being in Vancouver, literally walking out of teaching. I was a yoga teacher trainer at Langara College for many years. One night I walked out of that training in the dark. It was, I don't know, maybe 7 p.m. or something. And my car was gone from where I had parked it. This is years later now. I have a car, first time I get a car, and it's gone. And I realized when I go to the parking meter that there was a little sign on it that apparently there are just parking meters for like that are handicap space only. I didn't realize this. My car had been towed, not just ticketed. And one of the lovely students there said, "Oh, I'll drive you to the towing depot where I had to go." And I was literally like paralyzed in fear, the cost of the ticket, the towing. Um, there was so much scarcity. I was literally month to month just being able to cover my housing, being able to cover my food expenses. There was not anything extra. And at that time, I was struggling with this autoimmune condition, and I never had finances to go to an acupuncturist or a naturopath or a healer. That's actually what inspired me to study Ayurvedic medicine, was because I realized I have to figure this out myself. I don't have the resources, and I am a very resourced person. So at that time, my resource was internal. It was like, I'm going to figure this out. So it's really powerful to be able to do that. And what I lacked was the ability to say yes to greater support. I felt I had to do it all on my own. I had to figure everything out on my own. And now I have a completely different relationship to receiving support. I welcome support. I invest heavily in mentors and coaches and support in my business because because that's what I want. And I finally come to a place and space in my life where I recognize that I have to be the one that says yes to it. That life isn't just going to bring me angels and support without me saying yes to it. If I keep saying and believing that I got to figure it out on my own or I have to do it all, life will bring me more of that. But the minute that I began to say yes to myself in very scary ways, meaning putting my money down, investing so many times when I didn't have the money. I made the investment. I put it on the credit card. I got the line of credit because I recognized that that was the catapult. That's the quantum leap. It's not about the mentor or the coach. It's about me valuing myself enough to make it easier to receive support, to be guided by someone that's a couple steps ahead of me. And that's when things really began to shift and change and continues. It's a work in progress. I continue to say yes to myself. I continue to invest in me. My state of overflow isn't as focused on material items per se. That's not where I don't want a Gucci handbag. There's nothing wrong if you do. It's just not my thing. Yes, I would like to go heli skiing. That's for me, that's my thing. But a Gucci handbag or a Prada outfit, like, I don't care. I'm not saying I never will care about those kinds of things or that kind of luxury, but for me, luxury is the time freedom that I have, that I've built my life, that I've built my business in a way that, yesterday afternoon I went out rock climbing for 6 hours and had the most exquisite day in the mountains, on the rock, in the sun. To me, this is the frequency of overflow when I get to choose what I do with my time, my energy, to create a beautiful meal, to have organic ingredients, to purchase some flowers to put on my table. Like, this is overflow. This is grace. This is beauty. And each of us get to define what overflow is for us, get to define what abundance and wealth are, and what that really means. But here's the thing. Most people I work with are denying themselves their true desires. I will ask a client, what do you want? Many people don't know, although my clients now are learning to listen and trust their desires and really live from desire, because desire is powerful. But when we're so cut off from it, we will go to the default of what we think is possible or what we've allowed ourselves before. So this followed me through most of my life. What I just thought I deserved or was allowed, it meant I have to struggle, or it has to be hard, or if I get the thing, it's going to be just kind of the second best, never the thing that I really, really want, the thing that, okay, well, that's fine. I'll deal with this one. And this is essentially the prostitute archetype. This is the archetype, the frequency of prostitution, where we're literally, it's transactional. It's like, well, if I do the thing, well, then maybe I can get a little bit here. Do you see that? And that is very related to the victimized energy or frequency, where we feel like life is happening to us. Through my partner's death, I reworked a lot of the belief systems around being a victim, because I felt very much after 10 years autoimmune condition, I went through a grueling divorce years previously, and then after my partner's death, I felt like punished, like life's punishing me. And that's not what was happening. It felt like that's what was happening because I was seeing through that lens, through the frequency of victimization. What was happening, I was moving through initiation portals that were allowing me to awaken. And I believe that everything that does happen in our life is here for us. But it took me years and a lot of exploration to really own that, not just intellectually. I know we can intellectualize a lot of these spiritual concepts and ideas, but to actually embody that and have no residue of blame or victimization around my autoimmune condition, around my partner's death, around my divorce, where I actually have gratitude of like, oh, thank you. Thank you. And so now living from gratitude is one of the greatest ways we live from overflow. Not gratitude intellectually. And here's the difference. We've all been taught about, write out the things you're grateful for. And this is wonderful practice, but to feel, the universe is energetic. The universe works on frequency, not what our mind will tell us. And this is where the fine-tuning of frequency and identity is essential. It's the deepest spiritual work that we'll ever do, particularly around finances, around wealth consciousness. It is so sticky. It's going to get right under there around what we believe is possible, around what we believe we're worth, all of this stuff. Or we'll project it onto other people, onto our clients, onto like, oh, I don't want to charge so much because I want to be accessible. And it's all shadow. It's our shadow we haven't looked at. Instead of listening to spirit and feeling into our own truth, we stay up in our head, we stay up in the ego conditioning, and we live out this life that is not overflowing because we can't be in conditioned responses and overflow at the same time. You see? Something that I chose in my life that really shifted things energetically on the identity level, and really shifted the trajectory for me was when I purchased my home. I'd lived in Vancouver 25 years. What I'd heard that whole time was, you will never be able to own a home because it's so freaking expensive. And so I adopted that and just believed that. And especially being a healer, doing the dollars for hours thing, just making ends meet, that was even established deeper into my system and psyche of like, well, you'll just keep renting these shitty apartments. And some of them weren't shitty, but I can tell you some of them really were. Like bachelor basement suites with no light, with low ceilings, with loud people stomping around all hours of the day and night. I didn't give myself what I really wanted. I wasn't even willing to claim it for most of my life because I was so stuck in the logical, practical of like, well, this is all I can afford. I didn't even dream beyond that. I just stayed in the box until I started doing more inner work, more energy healing work, more emotional unraveling, and the deeper subconscious reprogramming that I do with my clients through the theta healing. That really started to shift things because it's not our conscious mind. We're intelligent humans. It's the deeper beliefs that are back there. The 95% of the subconscious. And until we address that, it's going to be very difficult. We'll just keep kind of butting our head up against the wall. But when I decided to move from Vancouver and buy a home, I had my budget. And then I started looking at places. And I was like, oh my God, the budget I have, like, I can't get anything that feels good even. They were old, outdated, like bachelor or one bedroom apartments. And I'm like, gosh, I'm not going to buy a place that I don't love, that doesn't feel good. Like I just, that seems weird to me. So I found a place online and I looked at it and I thought, that's the place. Like that feels really good. There was like zing, there was that energetic alignment. And I came to look at the place with my realtor. And when I came to look at the place, the woman that was living here before was a renter and she had toddlers and she did not care. And in fact, did not want to be moving from here because she was renting it and the owners were wanting to sell it. So she was being forced to leave. So when I showed up to look at this place, it was a mess, just a mess, which was a bit disheartening because it was like, oh gosh, but there was still something in me that was like, that's the place. And then a couple days went by and my realtor was asking me about it. And I said, okay, I think I want to put in an offer. I was scared. I was doing this alone. I'd never bought a home before. This was the biggest investment of my life by hundreds of thousands of dollars, like not even on a scale. And then she left a message. She said, oh, that place has been sold. And I thought, oh, I actually was annoyed and regretful. I was like, oh, I should have acted sooner. I was pissed. And then we talked back and forth a little bit. And she said, oh, a couple days later, she said, oh, I thought you were talking about the other place. This place that is now my home is still available. So I put in an offer and eventually purchased this place. It was such a leap in finances. It was way out of my budget, almost double, in fact, of what my budget was, of what I was willing to pay. I had to jump through a lot of hoops to be here. It wasn't just like, oh, overflow means that everything's just going to like move simultaneously with ease and grace, sometimes stepping into overflow means we're going to get super uncomfortable. We're going to have to keep saying yes. We're going to have to keep leaning in and making difficult decisions. That's also overflow. A lot of people get into a passive place of thinking that it just means like, well, if it didn't happen, it's not meant to be. That's not overflow. That's often spiritual bypass and passivity. And until we really get the difference, it can be difficult. We can kid ourselves and we let things just pass by. And overflow can be great ease also. I'm not saying it's not that, but it's more than just, oh, well, if it's simple, then I'll be a yes to it. We have to really get in touch with our values and line up incredibly for that. Same thing happened when I bought I bought a brand new car, something I told myself I would never do. My dad and brother are really into cars, and I'd heard my whole life the story, you know, the minute you buy a brand new car, it depreciates. You drive it off the lot, on and on and on. However, at the end of COVID, there were very few used cars available, and the used cars that were available, the prices were astronomical for these cars. But I knew that the car I was driving, I was just done with it energetically. It wasn't bad. It wasn't wrong. But when something is energetically done and stale, I know I have to take action. I have to let it go. I have to shift it. And when I haven't done that in the past, then this stagnancy builds. So I felt like the very clear it's time. And then I thought, oh my gosh, like these used cars are crazy expensive. And I don't want to just do a lateral move with my vehicle. So I found myself in a very similar situation, like purchasing my home. I'm now having conversations at a car lot, and the investment for this new car was huge. But I'll tell you, when I said yes to that, something shifted in me energetically and on an identity level that I finally, because I said yes to me, there was something that was alchemically different. It was palpable inside of me. And I can tell you, I got in that car and I was like, this is amazing. This is so awesome. I loved the smell of the new car. It's probably toxic. I loved driving the car. I still love driving the car. Every time I get in it, I'm like, thank you. This is so beautiful that I have this safe vehicle to drive up and down the highway in. And it's comfortable, and the seat heats and the steering wheel heats, and I love it. And there's something so beautiful about saying yes to all these things that in the past I would have been like, well, I don't need that. It's not about need. Overflow isn't about need. Have you ever showed up in nature somewhere and you've seen a fruit tree blooming and you see that a lot of the fruit's actually on the ground? It's been wasted, essentially. But not wasted, because it's also going to decompose and go back into the earth. And there's an ecosystem that is always happening. The same is true for us. And when we can move out of scarcity, fear, and lack and into overflow, a different quality emanates from us. And it literally, part of my own healing, not just emotional, psychological, spiritual, but actual physical healing, has been from leaning into this state of overflow and continuing to say yes to the things that are my true heart's desire, that I would have ignored before, that I would have never given space to, that I would have never thought that it was necessary, because it was material things, because and it's not always material things, but that's part of it. Part of my healing process is to say yes to spiritual things. Now, you might be the opposite. You might need to go and live in an ashram and have a life of austerity if your kink in the garden hose is around trying to fill a gap with material things. It's the same thing. It's the same lack. It just shows up differently. And so this is why it's important never to judge anyone else's desires or what anyone else is choosing, because we don't know their inner world. We don't know their karma. We don't know what they're working through to move to that next level of their evolution. So this permeates through all aspects of life. It permeates from how I run my business. I used to, when I first started with my Ayurveda practice, I came out of Ayurveda college. I was willing to see clients whenever they wanted me to see them because I was in that desperation energy. I was desperate for clients. I was desperate to have clients after my schooling. And I see now how that too was based in scarcity. It was not based in self-honoring. It wasn't based even in alignment with my values. And now I create my whole world, my whole business. It must serve me first. I had it backwards before. I was always about like, let it serve my client. Let me help them. Let me help them. Oh, you want to come in for an Ayurvedic massage at 10 p.m. on Saturday night? Okay. That kind of frequency will never get us to overflow. We have to be willing to grow up, to say yes to ourselves, to align with our values so we can really live in that. And I love that I get to create a business that not only serves me, but serves my clients. And I would say that if your life isn't serving you wholly and fully, it's not serving the world either. It doesn't equate. We can't be in lack and in service. Otherwise, you'll get 10-year long autoimmune condition. You'll get burnt out. You'll get resentful. You'll feel like I'm always giving, 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 and I'm depleting, depleting, depleting. Overflow is that idea of we have the teacup. Yes, the analogy of the teacup. And it is not just full. People say, is the cup half empty or half full? And then people say, well, I'll give from a full cup. You want to give from that cup where the tea is spilling over into the saucer, and what you give to others is what's in the saucer, not what's in your cup. Your cup is for you. Your cup is for you. And I was trained into a very traditional yogic lineage based on karma yoga, on selfless service. But what I never learned was to serve myself. That's been my edge. You might be the opposite, but it's the same principles. For me, it's learning how to be as important as my clients, to be as important as my loved ones, to be as important as the stranger on the street. And to really own that through my actions, through my very presence, to know that my presence is a gift. And I invite you into this activation for yourself to really feel inside of you the resonance of that, the truth of that, that you are a gift, that your presence is a gift, not what you do, not how good you are, not if you get the thing right, not if you say the things that they want you to say or do the things that they want you to do, but your presence is a gift. And your presence, when in alignment with your true essence, is the healing for others. The ego will tell you it's something else. It's some action you have to do. It's something you have to say correctly, or you have to show up in some way, in some, idealized or perfect form. But that's not it. Aligned with you, in the truth of you, being here as your whole self, who you came here to be on this planet, is the greatest gift. That means looking at the ego contraction, the ego's stories around lack and scarcity. So I'm going to pause here because I've been talking a lot. Curious if you have any questions or maybe even any insights or ahas that have come up for you. You're welcome to type them in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute yourself and speak your question into the space. I'm curious if any of this is resonating for you, if anything has landed in any way. that you're seeing in your own life? What are you applying to your life here today? What is your next edge? Where are you not in overflow? Where are you still believing in the lack, in you have to do it all yourself, that you can't have the things that you really want, that you can't be who you really want? Where is it for you? Natasha says lots of clarity. Very beautifully said. Thank you. You're so welcome. The clarity comes when we align to the truth, when we see how we've been lying to ourselves, and when we see ourselves through the eyes of the divine. That's when the miracles, that's when the synchronicities, that's when love shows up. When we're not seeing ourselves through the eyes of the divine, we're in separation. And through separation, we can never feel whole. And that's where we just keep chasing, 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 hustling harder, more. Nancy says, this is exactly what I need to hear. I still struggle with doing for me is selfish. I love the teacup overflow image. Yeah, the doing for me is the most selfless thing we can do. That's why I love Ayurveda and a clinical Ayurvedic specialist, because I saw through my own dis-ease that I was a burden to others. Yes, if we're in need of someone to take care of us, and it's okay if we do at times in our life, absolutely. But if that's our go-to because we haven't taken care of ourselves, we become a burden. And it's the same thing financially, energetically, emotionally. We need to be responsible for ourselves. And the way that we become responsible are tuning in to source above, to earth below, to walking in faith. If we're not, then we're going to be a burden to someone or something, for sure. So overflow is that state of oneness with the creator of all that is. Really just the recognition of that. We can never be separate, but our ego will allow us to live from separation, for sure. So Nancy, what I would say to you is, what's the most selfish thing that feels like the most selfish that you can do? And to go and do that today, to go and do that. To say no when you really mean no, or to say yes when you really mean yes. To do that thing for you, to keep filling yourself up. I need so much space in my life and in my calendar for me to really function optimally. I need so much fun time and time in nature for me to function optimally. But if I'm not giving myself that, then I can't show up for my clients in 100%. So it's a disservice to them. And I am so committed to my clients that when I show up on our calls, I am at the top of my game. I don't take it lightly when clients invest in themselves through me. I am there for it. And so me doing for me is the most selfless thing I can do. And now I can give to others, but not from deficit. Natasha says, what spoke most to me was the giving. Serving of self allows for showing up better for others. Yes, okay. Very much like put your own air mask first and then assist the person next to you. Exactly. Absolutely on the nature time. I so need that. Yeah, so ask yourself right now, what are 3 things that you know you need to live in overflow that you're not giving to yourself? Is it more time in nature? Is it more time in silence? Is it booking a massage more frequently? Like, what things do you know you've been avoiding or you've been tolerating in some area that are keeping you from overflow? This is very important work, especially as a leader, a self-led leader in your life. You're leading yourself, you're leading others. We can't keep perpetuating the idea that doing that from deficit is okay. It's just not, and it will catch up with you. From a clinical Ayurvedic perspective, we see that dis-ease, it builds over time. There's 6 phases. By the time you get to the place where the doctor says diagnosis, you've gone through 6 phases of disease. It's been a long time. So when we pay attention to the subtle signals of disconnect, of frustration, of resentment, that's where we course correct and start to shift into a greater wealth. Holding my boundaries as sacred. Yes, boundaries are a huge part of overflow. And yes, you might disappoint people. Yes, you might piss people off. But you cannot be in overflow and be in martyr energy, pleaser energy, victim energy. They're just not, they're going to pull from on each other. So juicy. Such important, not just conversation. I hope today's conversation has sparked something in you, like something real that you will take action upon, that you will integrate, that you will embody. That's how we change the world, being a living embodiment of who you came here to be. Truly, 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 truly. I love talking about the energetic work. I love talking about the identity shift. And I'm curious if you do have something you're going to commit to today to step into greater overflow, please type it in the chat, because it's great to learn from one another and see what each of you are doing with this content. And I'll also invite you to set an intention for yourself just for this day. How will you embody overflow today? Maybe you decide, I'm going to take my phone and turn it off and put it in a cupboard for the next 6 hours. Maybe I'm going to lie down on the couch and read a book for 30 minutes. Maybe I'm going to have a bath and just luxuriate and put in some Epsom salts and some essential oils and light a candle. Maybe you're going to get some really fine chocolate and be very present with eating this delicious chocolate. I'm already thinking about, I make chocolate by hand, and it's exquisite. It's probably the best chocolate. No, it is the best chocolate I've ever had. And I make it for my partner, but he has more willpower than I do, so I end up eating most of it. But that chocolate is luxurious. It's the symbol of overflow. It's so beautiful. There's no crap in it, and it's just like love. It's just love. So I thank you so much for your presence today. If you are interested in going deeper, I'm just going to quickly share with you something that's coming up. It is called the Next Level Wealth. And this was previously a program called Wise, Wild, and Wealthy, and it's been upgraded to Next Level Wealth. It is a potent portal, a 6-week portal, where you will come meet like this live in a small, intimate group where you will receive one-on-one coaching from me. You're also going to receive 6 modules of content that you have a year-long access to listen to and to return to. Inside of this program, there's going to be energetic activations. There's a whole section, a whole module on nervous system regulation. If we don't do the nervous system work around identity, around wealth, it's very difficult to be in overflow. It's very difficult to be and live from abundance. And again, it's your definition of these things, not some idea of what someone else thinks wealth is. It's like, what is the wealthiest life that you want to live? And also, you'll be expanded into your true desires, maybe even beyond your wildest imagination, and living into that, not living into what you think is logical or practical, but what is your soul actually calling you forward into? And to be in a room and a space and a container where talking about money, talking about your true heart's desire isn't taboo, it's not dirty, that we can be conscious spiritual beings. And in fact, as conscious spiritual beings, we have to get this wealth thing down. Can you imagine if the conscious spiritual beings on the planet had the most money? This would be a different world. And we have to stop pretending that money doesn't matter. We have to stop pretending that investing in ourselves and in people, organizations, things that matter to us, that is a form of sacred service. So I'll come back to what's written in the chat in a second. Next Level Wealth starts October 21st. It's $997. If this feels like a yes for you, if you're like, I would so love to no longer live from these scarcity patterns, however subtle or deep they are for you, when you register today, you're going to get a private 30-minute one-on-one frequency code session with me, where we're going to dive into looking at your specific wealth codes, looking at your specific energetic blocks that are keeping you separate from greater abundance and overflow. And that in and of itself has a $300 value. Those I very, very rarely do one-on-one work anymore. So if this is a yes for you, then sign up today. I'll also put the link in the chat here. That is in US dollars, 997 USD. So there is a bit of an exchange rate there. I don't know what it is currently. And I'm going to put the link here if you're interested. It's in the chat, and that will take you. There's also a payment plan so that you can pay over a few months instead of upfront, if that suits you. This will change your perspective around what money is, around what wealth is, and around how you are actually a living conduit for abundance when you stop blocking it, when you stop what life is actually wanting to bring to you and through you. So it's super exciting. This work is, as I said before, the deepest spiritual work that I have ever done is the wealth consciousness work. And I've done a lot of spiritual, deep inner work, ashrams, Buddhist retreats, vision quests, all, you name it, I've done it. And this wealth consciousness work is very spicy. It gets into those darker areas that we've been ignoring. So I would love for you to join me in that. It will change the trajectory of your wealth consciousness. And it's just so fun. And it can be fun to start actualizing and materializing things and be like, oh my God, this could be easy. Oh my gosh, life can feel good. Your health improves, your joy improves, your energy improves. And yeah, I'm a living testament of that, literally going from autoimmune conditioning, not being able to walk up a flight of stairs to now, yeah, I was out rock climbing for 6 hours yesterday. I'm mountaineering, I'm skiing, I'm doing these things that I never would have thought possible for me like 15 years ago. So we can transform, and it's all an inside job. Even my autoimmune condition, when I energetically shifted and continued to see, oh, it was an identity issue. It was a frequency issue. I was buying into and believing thoughts and taking actions from those thoughts that were based in not enoughness. And the body follows suit. So if you have physical issues, they're not physical issues, they're spiritual issues. And the work that we're doing inside of this container, although it looks like, yeah, we're talking about money, we're talking about wealth, but it's actually talking about your alignment with yourself, your alignment with you. Okay. Thank you, Natasha, sharing her intention here today. My intention on this number 8 day numerology in number 1 month is to hold space for the seeds of opportunity to flow, to take action on the opportunities, and finally to take ownership on my leadership, showing up, and intuitive mastery. I love it. Lol, that's a lot now, and I read that. It's perfect. It's so perfect. And I love the taking the action piece is really important. So what I hope you don't do is just leave this conversation today and be like, oh, well, that was nice. You know, whether you're going to join me in Next Level Wealth or not, please alchemize this energy, ride this wave, take this frequency and do something in your life with it. You need to do something differently to get a different result. I know we know that, but the application of that, again, will change things for you. So thank you again. Let me know if you do have any questions about the Next Level Wealth program. You can send me an email or you can sign up and I'll send you next steps to book your one-on-one session with me. Much, much love to you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. You're welcome. So welcome. Ciao.